Now we start digging into the topic of thinking as a causal process. It will be a more general introduction to how the brain organizes thoughts into concepts, etc. in this video, and then we'll continue with reasoning in the next video. What I say will be, it's sort of in the continuation of things that have been said before, where I based much on the neuroscientist Antonio Damasio. Now it's the neuroscientist Lawrence Barsalou that I'm mainly presenting, and that I'm using them in the next video. They're both part of a position within this kind of research called the grounded cognition model that we'll also come back to. So we've seen already that when we are moving around in the world, sensing things that happen, different kinds of neurons are activated by different kinds of features out in the world. And then there's this rule called the Heb's rule. Says that neurons that fire together wire together. So if some neurons are activated at the same time, and that happens several times, then they get more and more closely connected into one larger group. So for instance, if I see a horse many times, then different neurons will react to different parts of the horse. But when you've seen a horse many times, this will be activated together. They will be connected together as a group, stored in your brain as the group connected or representing a horse. And then there will be different groups like this, overlapping groups. So you can have groups for legs, for instance, and you have different kinds of legs. So within the group for a horse, you will find head and tail and legs. But you'll also find legs in the group for a cat, and then other parts. So similarly with different kinds of doors, they will be gathered in one group of doors. But also you have a group for houses where door is a part, and cars have door as a part. But cars also have wheels as a part, which houses do not, etc. So this is then how the group, the brain organizes groups that will then be the equivalence of a concept. So when you think of the concept of a horse, it's activating this horse group and everything associated with horses. And it can be both objects and also events. Different kinds of events will also be then one concept, the concept of this event, playing football, for instance. So by concept, I mean what we're thinking about when we hear a concept, whereas the words, that's just the letters, H-O-R-S-E, horse, or C-R-A-R, car, etc. And the word will also be part of this group, so that when you read the word or hear the word, you will activate this this group then. So that's what it means to think about the concept. But we're not only thinking about things that we have already seen and experienced and stored into memory. We can also think new thoughts. And the way that happens is that the brain is constantly simulating possible events, possible ways of combining, etc., which is also very useful and explains reasoning, which I'll talk more about, but just very simply then, for instance, if you have a group for a lion, and a part of that group is they eat humans, then if you meet a lion and you know that you're a human, then you can also know that this lion could eat you, and then maybe you can simulate then different events. What should I do? I could run, or I could pick up a gun, etc. The grounded cognition model is a theory of cognition and thinking that says that when we are thinking about and understanding different concepts, the brain activates things that we associate with that concept. So for instance, a hammer, if you see a hammer or think about a hammer, then the brain will activate not only things that has to do with the shape and color, etc. of the hammer, but also things you can do with the hammer, and even activating the parts of the brain that will that you need if you want to start hammering yourself. And they can see this by brain scanning, that for different kinds of, there's plenty of examples of this. Hammer is a classical one, But that this is what it means then to understand what a hammer is. It's that the brain activates everything that has to do with the hammer. And they can even see or follow in quite detailed learning a new concept, see how it gets stored, how concepts that are similar to each other are also similar on the neural level and stored at near to each other. And I think we also know from experience how one thing you can associate. That's how different parts or different concepts and ideas, etc., are activated in your mind, often through association. That when you see something that is similar to something else, you will think about that as well. It gets activated. So the idea then is that thinking about or understanding a concept means to activate this group in your brain, which has to do with that and which has all these different parts. And only parts of that is conscious. So much of it is unconscious. Thinking about all the things you can do with the hammer, etc. You're not thinking about them all consciously, but that's what it means to understand this concept then. And the same would go for abstract concepts, because it's not just the things that has a shape and that you can sense, but for instance, anger then will activate different memories and scenarios of people being angry and what they have in common. Or the word "or" can activate, for instance, an idea of an open slot where you have two different alternatives, only one of them will fit, so it's one or the other, but that you have this mental representation, which is quite concrete also in the case of abstract concepts. So you can have a mathematical set, but it will activate sort of metaphorically the kind of container that you imagine. You can put different things in a container or a bag or something that will be something similar to a set, but then you know sort of mathematical rules, and so you have these different parts, but you have this rough understanding, and we try to make it more precise, and much of it will be non-conscious, but this is what it means then to understand both concrete and abstract concepts, that you associate the things that characterize them, that distinguishes them from other, that you can do with them, etc. Yes, so I think that's the sort of general idea I wanted to convey in this video, how the brain organizes concepts, and how words can activate these concepts. And then we'll start in the next video by looking at how you can reason, how the brain can use then these concepts, these groups, into reasoning and making rational arguments.